The Chicago White Sox got off on the right foot and beat the Cleveland Guardians to start their 13-game stretch against the AL Central. Sox got to Shane Bieber the third time through and poured it on. Lance Lynn was a completely different pitcher on Tuesday, hoping for much more of that moving forward. White Sox look to make it two in a row as Mike Clevinger will face his former team on Wednesday.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong die-hard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The White Sox take on the Cleveland Guardians on Wednesday. Mike Clevinger is on the hill. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Our Chicago White Sox now 15-28 on the season. They beat the Guardians 8-3 on Tuesday on the South Side. A big 6-run fifth inning with 2 outs. Sox had 16 hits in the game, 3 home runs, and a return of Lance Lynn. Going to get into all the details later in this episode. Lots of good stuff to take from this game as the White Sox try to really go one game at a time, especially during this critical stretch against the AL Central. Before the game, a lot of talk on social media, and it's been happening for several days now, maybe even weeks, about maybe there's going to be another rebuild. Maybe this team is absolutely going to have to sell off and what can happen. And I can't believe here we go again. And so I went back and I took a look at where the Sox were back in 2016. At this point, mid-May, May 17th, the Sox were 24-14. And if you remember that season, they were one of the hottest teams in baseball. They were playing outstanding baseball. They were the talk of MLB. It was an exciting time to be a White Sox fan. They were 10 games over 500 in mid-May. They had a 5-game lead in the Central. And then a couple months later, mid-July, things started to fall apart, and they eventually finished with a 78-84 record. So heading into Tuesday's game, the Sox were looking at, maybe they're going to have to win 64 more games to hit that 78 win total. So when you think about, the rebuild and everything that happened with that, they were only 78. They were only 78-84. It wasn't absolutely awful, but I think it was a point of they finally chose a direction. They finally chose a path to go. So time will tell with this 2023 White Sox team. I think this stretch here, this 13-game stretch against the AL Central, in total, it's 16 of 19. Against divisional opponents. This will be very, very important. As we head out of May, I think we will have a much clearer picture of the Chicago White Sox. Prior to Tuesday's series opener against the Cleveland Guardians, the White Sox returned left-handed pitcher Garrett Crochet from his injury rehab assignment at Class AAA Charlotte and reinstated him from the 10-day IL and optioned right-hander Nick Padilla to Charlotte Crochet made 6 rehab appearances at Double-A Birmingham and Triple-A Charlotte, fanning 8 and walking none while allowing 5 runs over 6 innings. Garrett Crochet last pitched in a big league game in 2021 when he recorded a 2.82 ERA in 54 relief appearances. You did not see Garrett Crochet in Tuesday's game, but he's a welcomed addition with everything that's been going on with his bullpen. Pretty excited to see what Joe Kelly has been doing as of late, and Middleton looks sharp on Tuesday. But to have a power lefty, and I don't know what we're going to get from Crochet, really. It doesn't sound like there's going to be restrictions on him, but you never know. I think about Garrett Crochet when he came on the scene in 2020 and what he was able to do, just absolutely electric. What a weapon. And then, Chuck Garfien was talking in the pregame on NBC Sports Chicago that, the last time he pitched, it was in the ALDS against Houston and in that horrible series in 2021. So here we are, Garrett Crochet back on the south side. This was from Vinny Duber of CHGO. Pedro Grifol said the Sox will use Garrett Crochet in a number of ways, in multi-inning outings, in high-leverage outings versus small parts of lineups. Asked if Crochet will be a Swiss Army knife, Grifol said he's prepared to. Where it ends up, we'll see, but he's prepared to. So, I like to hear that there are no restrictions on Garrett Crochet, and I think that is something that Grifol is going to have to figure out. One of the key problems with the bullpen, obviously it's performance, but another issue I think has been where Grifol and Katz, where they're trying to figure out these arms to fit in this bullpen through April and now and through middle of May. And guys might not be set up in opportunities where they can succeed or they've had success in previous seasons. Coming out of a bullpen and throwing 4 straight balls, that should not be the case, no matter where you traditionally pitch in a relief opportunity. But to have, Garrett Crochet back, and now hopefully Hendricks, in the near future, the next week or so, we'll see things might be able to, the pieces of the puzzle might be being able to, be formed. So you have a clear picture of what this bullpen could look like if starters can go, a little bit longer, like Lance did on Tuesday, and you can have the guy that's going to set up the bridge, and then you have your 9th inning guy. That it can change. That can really change a potential outcome. If we've got the lead and it is a high leverage situation. So good to have Crochet back. Some info on Eloy Jimenez. Grifol said he ran on Tuesday. He ran out there and he felt good enough to come run the bases. His legs feel good. His body feels good. He's been cleared to start doing some stuff. And hopefully by the end of the week, he'll start swinging a little bit. Remember, Grifol is hoping that while Eloy Jimenez recovers from his appendectomy, that he is also resting his legs so he can spend some time out there in right field, which I'm sure we're all very excited about. Speaking of right field, this was from James Fegan on Twitter on Tuesday. Pedro Grifol acknowledged Oscar Collas is playing well in AAA, but said, let's take our time with it. Make sure he continues to develop the things we feel are going to make him a really good major league player. And when he's ready, he's ready. Oh my goodness. Where was this at the beginning of the season? I feel like I have tackled this and demolished this topic over and over, but now it's just clear as day. I mean, if you just gave this guy some solid at-bats for a stretch at the beginning of the season and just admit the fact that you have no real idea what you're doing with right field, put Gavin Sheets out there to begin the season, let Oscar Collas get his swings in, get his confidence, and then bring him up. Maybe it would have been a different story. So to be determined on Oscar Collas, but I'm glad that Grifol acknowledged how well he is playing. White Sox smashed 3 home runs, and Luis Robert Jr. stayed hot. Lance Lynn made some key adjustments from his most recent start to help the Sox get back on track. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by So Rare, our new sponsor. So Rare is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next level competitions and rewards. Head to sorare.com/locked on. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards. Set your lineup and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/locked on to start playing today. The White Sox play the Cleveland Guardians on Wednesday. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Good one for our Southsiders. They beat the Guardians Tuesday 8-3. This was a game that was kind of going to feature Naylor against Robert, maybe. Naylor left the game early, thankfully. Robert, he stayed hot. And no Jose Ramirez, we were being told in the pregame, possibly for the entire series. And again, Cleveland's offense, not a lot going on. I mean, they were bottom of the barrel in all of baseball. Offensively, and it kind of showed that, and especially when Naylor left the game. I mean, they've got some guys like Quan and Straw that can get on. They've got speed, but not a lot of power in that lineup. Lance Lynn with a 7-pitch first inning. Cleveland came out swinging. I mean, they were attacking right away. That was a breath of fresh air. 7-pitch first inning for Lynn. Bottom of the first, Shane Bieber, he's a good one, and he's a good one on the road. Tim Anderson went chasing on a Bieber slider that was out of the zone. I was hoping Luis Robert Jr. was watching that. Benintendi with a base hit up the middle, a ground out for Robert, then Moncada frozen for an inning-ending strikeout. Bieber looked sharp early. Top of second, Lance Lynn did a nice job of mixing up eye levels early on, seemed to favor working the top of the strike zone, especially with 2 strikes. Lynn gave up nothing after 2 innings. It really seemed like Lynn had a plan going in there, especially when he was ahead in the count, not just pepper inside the zone. His stuff obviously was working. He was hitting his spots, but he was moving things a lot, especially up even out of the strike zone at the top level. Bottom of second, Bieber sitting 92 miles per hour, working the corners, featuring a nasty slider. And he also works very quick. I know everybody's kind of working quick this year, but Shane Bieber works very quick. Andrew Vaughn flew out to right field. Then Sheets became the 3rd strikeout victim, frozen on a fastball at the knees. Yasmani Grandal got on with a bloop single, then Berger with a pop out to short right field. You had the feeling, at least I did, after 2 innings, man, Bieber looks locked in. I don't know. I've seen this way too many times with Shane Bieber on the hill. Top of third, Lynn had Brennan 0-2, trying to cutter, working inside with a fastball, then got Brennan to fly out to left field. Lynn was sitting 93 miles per hour at the top of the zone. Not a lot being offered inside the hitter's zone. Much different from Lynn's last start. Struck out Zuino, went upstairs again on an 0-2 count. against Straw and struck him out. After 3, 0 hits allowed, 0 walks, 4 strikeouts. Lynn just 32 pitches. Bottom of the third, Hanser Alberto led off with a base hit. Benintendi got on after a nailer, could not make a play at first base. He got first and second with only 1 out. A couple of sliders to Luis Robert Jr. had him 0-2. And then, I thought this was going to go differently. Bieber caught too much of the zone, in my opinion, with a 91 mile per hour fastball. Robert just didn't get enough, flew out to right field. Moncada struck out for the second time. So after 3, White Sox offense, 4 hits, 0 walks, which was the theme for both teams throughout the game. 4 strikeouts, and they were 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. It was a pitcher's duel early on. Top of 4, second time through the order for Cleveland here. Lynn's cutter was working much differently, dipped out of the zone, and he had it at the height of the zone as well. Naylor with a 2-out base hit, first Cleveland hit of the game. Bottom 4, White Sox did have some traffic on the base paths, but nothing doing then. Top of 5, 3 pitches got Lance Lynn 2 outs. Such a different scenario from his last start. Lynn staying at the top of the zone, then mixed up eye levels, trying to cancel out Zunino, then an elevated cutter for his 5th strikeout to end the inning. Bottom of 5, this is when things got really interesting for our Chicago White Sox. It was the Sox opportunity to go third time through the order against Bieber. Anderson led off with a base hit. Benintendi rolled into a 4-6-3 double play. Man, just shaking my head. I was like, here we go. Just when you thought we had a mini rally going there, and a great way to start, getting TA with the speed, get him on base. But Luis Robert Jr. got on first via catcher's interference. Okay, so you get 2 outs. Robert getting on base by catcher's interference, no big deal, right? Well, Robert was running and was able to score on a base hit by Moncada that fell short of the right fielder and was mishandled. 1-0 Sox. Vaughn with a base hit then. Again, all this with 2 outs. Sheets took a cutter that did not do much and smashed it to right center for a 3-run home run. 4-0 White Sox. Berger took an 0-2 offering and hit a 2-run home run to opposite field. 6-0 Sox. Bieber got bounced. Again, all of this with 2 outs, 10 batters, 6 runs. So top of 6, I was wondering how Lance Lynn would respond there. He was in the dugout for a lengthy amount of time, and you've got this cushion now. And how are you going to attack Cleveland? Well, Straw ripped an inside cutter to left field. Benintendi dove, could not make the play. Straw had a lead-off triple. That's how things started. Quan with a sac fly to score Straw. Yasmani Grandal with an interesting throw to first base that ended up down the right field line, but no further damage. 6-1 Sox. Let's go bottom 6. Moncada and Vaughn with back-to-back 2-out doubles. That was nice to see. 7-1 Sox. They got that run back. Top of 7. Cutter was lively for Lance Lynn. Had a lot of movement, working to his advantage. Cleveland had something going on. First and second, 1 out. Lynn was at 85 pitches, but he was able to get a 4-6-3 double play to end the inning. We'll go back to top of 8. Lynn was out there for the 8th. He had 90 pitches on his arm. Tim Anderson with a bad throw to Vaughn. So Cleveland had their leadoff hitter. Then there was a double down right field line by Quan, and then your stomach started moving a little bit. Okay, this feels familiar, and I don't like it. Straw scored. It was 7-2 Sox. Lynn left the game. Middleton was now in, and Anderson with a delayed throw to first. If you were a baseball fan back in the 80s, early 90s, Sean Dunston, shortstop on the north side of town with the Cubs. He would, man, when he would get the ball, he would absolutely delay his throw, double clutch. He would hold on to that ball and then fire to first base almost like at the last second. It felt like that's what Tim Anderson was doing. It was a kind of a rough inning defensively for Anderson there in the eighth. But Rosario was safe on that play. Cleveland had first and second, nobody out, then a nice double play. Middleton could not make a play on a dribbler to first base side, so Cleveland scored another one, 7-3 Sox, though no further damage. Bottom eight, Luis Robert Jr., 2 out, solo home run off a 96-mile-per-hour fastball. Robert's 12th of the year, 4 straight games with a home run, 8-3 Sox. Joe Kelly had the 9th. He got the job done. Again, Joe Kelly has been very reliable during, it feels like 4 or 5 games now. I've really liked what I've seen from Kelly. Lynn's final line, 7 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs. Only 1 was earned, 0 walks, which was great to see, 7 strikeouts. He's got his ERA 6.66. He threw 97 pitches on Tuesday. Bullpen, that was Middleton and Kelly. They went 2 innings combined, 2 hits, 0 walks, a couple of strikeouts. Sox offense, they exploded, 8 runs, 16 hits, 3 home runs. Berger, Sheets, Luis Robert Jr. Sox were 2 for 8 with runners in scoring position. They did leave 10 runners on. Mike Clevinger, he's going to take on his former team on Wednesday, trying to continue what Lance Lynn did to the Guardians. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Look, these pants and shorts from Bird Dogs are unbelievably comfortable, versatile, and they just fit right. They give me the freedom to wear one pair of shorts on the golf course, spend time with friends, cut the grass, go for a run, or join the family for a barbecue. Love the stretchy fabric, and they are far more comfortable than any other shorts. Perfect fit, and a must-have, absolute must-have for summer. I've been wearing these Bird Dog shorts for the last couple days, doing all different kinds of stuff around the house, going for walks in the neighborhood, going for a run. Extremely comfortable and super stretchy. They move with you. Highly recommend these shorts now that the weather is starting to warm up. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB. And when you enter promo code LockedOnMLB, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. The series continues on Wednesday. Cleveland White Sox, 7:10 Central Time on the south side. Mike Clevinger is on the mound facing his old team. Clevinger has a record of 0-1 with an ERA of 4.22 and 8 strikeouts in 2 appearances against the Guardians in his career. Both of those appearances were in 2022, while, of course, he was with the Padres. Clevinger was 42-22 with an ERA of 3.20 and 584 strikeouts in 101 appearances for Cleveland from 2016 until he was dealt in late August 2020. This was a blurb from MLB Trade Rumors on August 31st, 2020, when Mike Clevinger was traded to the Padres. Clevinger drew ire from organizational higher-ups, not only for breaking COVID-19 protocols, but then taking a flight with the team rather than being forthcoming about his actions. That led to Clevinger being optioned to team's alternate training site alongside Zach Plesac, who also violated protocols, but was found to have done so before traveling with the club. Reports after the pair was optioned indicated that some teammates were so furious with the pair that they threatened to opt out of the season if Clevinger and Plesac were permitted to rejoin the club right away. This season so far for Mike Clevinger, he has a 2-3 record with an ERA of 4.79, 35 strikeouts in 8 appearances. His last start was against Kansas City, 6 innings, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, a couple of walks, and only 2 strikeouts. Cleveland will send Peyton Battenfield to the mound. He is 0-4 with a 4.45 ERA this year. So going back to what Pedro Grifol said a couple days ago, I featured it on the most recent episode of Locked On. Look, it's one game at a time. They cannot think about how many games back they are in the AL Central and how bad April was and the scuffling already in early May. It's one game at a time. You took care of business on Tuesday, make it 2 in a row, and then just pile it on. You know, you've got a lot of games here against AL Central opponents. End the month strong, but it really can happen just one game at a time. Hopefully there's some offense left for the White Sox, and they can back up Mike Clevinger like they did Lance Lynn. Folks, thank you so very much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcasts. We're on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Pass it along to other White Sox fans in your life. Sox take on the Guardians on Wednesday on the South Side. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. Hey, everydayers, you know who you are. On the next episode, I will recap Mike Clevinger's outing. Hopefully be talking about a White Sox winner. It'll be 2 in a row for the Southsiders. Appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Borowski. Until next time, go Sox.